So when I woke up this morning, I woke up to my alarm clock going off. However, it wasn't my normal alarm clock ringtone. After hitting snooze a couple of times, well, more like 5 times, like usual, I was laying in bed, and after what seemed like the sixth alarm, I thought, why is that not my normal alarm clock ringtone? It hit me. This was my reminders alarm clock ringtone. I missed the launch of the Nothing 4A and 4A Pro. Holy crap. After rubbing my eyes and turning off my reminder alarm, the very first picture I see is the Nothing Phone 4A Pro. Oh my god. I busted out laughter, but not the laugh like when you hear or see a joke or something funny. Oh no. This was laughter of joy. I could not believe my eyes. Nothing is back. The Phone 4A looks absolutely amazing. Phenomenal. Extraordinary. Freaking incredible. Do you want me to go on? I freaking love this design. Carl Pei, the team at Nothing, congratulations to you, sir. You know, when Carl said that the 4A was going to be their flagship this year, my first thought was, okay, I get it. I can certainly see that way of thinking and or going about business. My next thought was, damn, they better knock this one out of the park in the looks and design department. And they did just that. Now, there is some good news and bad news we're going to get into shortly, but let's get into the devices Nothing is set to release here soon. First up, the Nothing Phone 4A. The 4A is a beauty. We got our very first look at the 4A last week. Nothing released a video introduction of the device last week on their YouTube channel. I've always loved the A series devices Nothing has put out, and this new 4A is basically the 3A, but just more refined and packed with more powerful hardware. It's not technically a refresh because the glyph bars are now gone, replaced by the glyph squares, although they did retain the same camera bar look and feel on the back that everyone loves. The 3A, now that I think about it, it looks more like a toy, as the new 4A looks like a refined piece of art. It's just everything the 3A is not, meaning Nothing added all the necessary hardware upgrades you would expect since they raised the price slightly. Now, I am going to add some graphics for the key hardware upgrades on the Nothing Phone 4A, but minor key improvements include a brighter 1.5K display, a new Snapdragon chipset 7S Gen 4, upgraded 50 megapixel cameras including a new periscope lens, enhanced durability with the Gorilla Glass 7i, redesigned glyph light system. You have to remember this phone starts around $400, so you cannot expect it to blow you away on the spec sheet, but I am happy to see the device gets key upgrades in all the right places, like in the display and the camera department. See, the fantastic thing about Nothing phones is the software is so smooth and refined. You forget you're using a mid-range phone. Everything just works, and it's an absolute joy to use. It's pretty safe to say that the glyph bars are now a thing of the past, replaced instead with all new glyph squares that are in a bar-like section, which represents a simplified version of what Nothing has been trying to achieve with its rear-facing light system. Now featuring just 7 squares lined up in a row, comprised of 63 mini LEDs, this bar can be used as an indicator for various functions, notifications such as the battery level during charging. The red square at the bottom will also flash when you're recording video. Even though they were more budget-friendly, the Nothing Phone 3A range didn't exactly feel cheap in the hand, but it's clear that Nothing is looking to double down in terms of durability, implementing a handful of key upgrades that should allow its latest phone to go the distance. Both phones have been built with the tougher Gorilla Glass 7i, making them less likely to succumb to dents and scratches. Nothing claims that it has also increased the bend resistance of these devices by 34%. While something like that is tricky to quantify in everyday use, it does at least provide some additional peace of mind that the phone should hopefully be more resistant to usual wear and tear that a lot of lower mid-range phones see. There's also the new 70x Ultra Zoom mode on the 4A, which will likely use AI to upscale images once they've been taken. The display is slightly bigger than before, with the 4A jumping to a 6.78-inch panel that now has, as I mentioned earlier, a 1.5K resolution to deliver more detail, which is great news for anyone who likes to use their phone for a bit of entertainment on the go. Screen brightness has also given a serious uptick, now hitting 4,500 nits on the 4A. Let's talk about the device that stole the show. This thing is a showstopper. Let me introduce you to the Nothing Phone 4A Pro. This is Nothing's flagship device for 2026. So technically, look, this is not a quote-unquote flagship device, but this is Nothing's flagship device for the year, and I think they have the right to call it a flagship. The look is striking. I can see where they went with this design. The very first thing you notice is the glyph matrix, now introduced to this series, coming over from the flagship Nothing Phone 3. Nothing got blasted for the ugly Nothing Phone 3 design, and rightfully so. Nothing wanted to be different, but they kept the unique look of this device without going too far into the ugly lane. They want to be unique, they want to be different, I get that, but they cannot go too far the different lane where it starts to look ugly, something whatever resembles the Nothing Phone 3. That's just, I don't know, that thing was way out there. Just wasn't for me. I think this is the perfect intersection of unique and beauty. See, this is why I love using a Nothing phone. Whenever I'm out and about, I always get stopped and asked, hey, what phone is that? I love being unique. I love using a beautiful phone, and Nothing has got it this year. This is certainly it. This phone 4A Pro does come with a slightly larger price tag, and yes, it does have better specs. So let's get into those specs. So most specs are similar on these two devices, with the Pro term coming in where it counts. There are some small differences that might be noticeable without turning the phone around. For example, the Nothing Phone 4A Pro display has a slightly larger 6.83 inches and a higher screen refresh rate at 144 Hz, as well as a slightly higher peak brightness, hitting 5,000 nits. The Pro phone features faster memory with LPDDR5X RAM and is more water resistant, achieving an IP65 rating. All new Sony sensors that get zoom capabilities up to 140x. The Snapdragon 7 Gen 4 will be powering the Nothing Phone 4A Pro. Both devices have a 5080 mAh battery. Both share 50 watt wired charging. Remember when I said that there was good news and bad news? Well, it appears we can't have our cake and eat it too. So let's get this out of the way first. If you live in the United States, you can rejoice. This is a good time for Nothing fans in the United States. The USA's beta program is gone. It's a full-fledged open sales for the US market, which means the device is fully unlocked now for all US carriers. The bad news is that the only one available between these two devices on March 13th is the Nothing 4A Pro. That's right, the Nothing 4A Pro will be the only available device for purchase on Nothing's website. Nothing is leaving out the 4A for the US market. This hurts a little bit. I wish both were available to purchase for US residents. I don't know why they chose to go this route. Look, these phone companies hire sales teams that examine the markets and project sales. So I'm assuming they did not believe they would sell many phone 4As in the US, is what I'm guessing. You can still get one if you live in the US. Just wait a couple of weeks after launch and they'll be all over eBay. Buyer beware, if you do not have T-Mobile as your carrier in the United States, stay away from the Nothing Phone 4A. Last year's 3A, which was sold to Americans in the Nothing's beta program, did not play nicely with USA carriers AT&T and Verizon. T-Mobile was fine for me, but not everybody has T-Mobile. On the other hand, I am super stoked that the 4A Pro is officially available to purchase for the US market. Finally out of beta hell and now fully free and unlocked for each and every carrier in the United States. The 4A is going to be the equivalent of around $399, and the 4A Pro is officially starting at $499 for the 8 gig 128 storage variant, while the upgraded model is going for $599 for the 12 gig 256 storage variant. It's up against some stiff competition at that price point, but I can guarantee you this. It is the best looking and smoothest phone you'll be able to buy new at that price point, or hell, at any price point on the US market. Now, if there was a downside to things, or if there was one thing I could point out that Nothing does need to improve upon moving into the future, that would be updates. So both phones are receiving 3 years of software updates and 6 years of security patches. They need to get that up to 4 or at the very least 5 years of software updates, in my opinion, to really compete against the big boys in the market. As a Nothing phone user, I can say they do get monthly security patches regularly, but we just need them to extend the support a little longer. I think they will eventually get to 4 or 5 years of software update support. I just wish that it comes sooner than later. By the way, shout out to Nothing for giving us a pink color to choose from in both the 4A and 4A Pro. I know as a guy, I'd never get a pink phone, but it is very, very important to pull in women into your ecosystem. I don't know what it is with pink and women, but God, women freaking love pink. Nothing deserves props for producing pink phones for the women that want to get in on what Nothing has been cooking up. I will be getting one for sure. 4A Pro, silver is my color of choice. I might even make it my daily driver over my S23 Ultra. If you don't believe me, just watch.